Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be focusing on all of the brand new luxury and high-end makeup releases that have come out over the past 2 months. And because this is a channel for those of us who do have sensitive skin, I am going to be focusing on products that do not include irritating ingredients such as fragrance or aluminum powder or chemical sunscreens and sunscreen boosters. And when I have tried out these products already, I will let you know how I've been doing with them. And if I haven't tried out the products, then I will just talk about the ingredient list and let you know what else I know about the products. And at the beginning of the video, I will be discussing some of the products that I have been experimenting with already and show you some video footage. And so among these include 2 new luxury concealers. One of these is from Chanel. This is the Chanel Le Beige concealer. And then the other one is from Chantecaille. And so this is called the Bio Lifting Concealer. And so I have worn each of these quite a few times. And so I can let you know what my experience with those have been. And then I also have a couple of blush sticks that are from Kosas, and so I will be talking about that. And I also have a new shade in the Creal bronzer, and so I was a bit unhappy with the Creal bronzer in the past because I felt like there was not really a good shade for me. But I did pick up this new shade that they have just released, which is 1.5, and I do think that this one has a bit of pink in it, and it does not lean as orange or yellow as the previous versions, and so I have also been happy with this one. And I also have a new eyeshadow palette that is from Dior, which is in a color that is called Summer Azure, and so I will be demonstrating that. And I have a new eyeliner that is from a channel that is called Glam Girl Gabby, and so this is called Mature Beauty, and so I did pick up one of these eyeliners, and so I will be demonstrating that as well. And these are the products that I have on my face today. And all of my video footage is shot in 100% natural light with no filters and with a lot of extreme close-ups. And so you should be able to get a really good sense of what all these different products look like in the real world on my own 61-year-old skin. And one thing that I did want to mention is that I am starting a newsletter, and the reason for that is because I do think it's becoming more and more difficult for long-form creators to survive here on YouTube. So in the past, YouTube had started showing my videos to fewer and fewer new people, but it seems that they have now just also started not showing the videos to subscribers, not only in their home feed, but even in their subscriptions feed. And so I'm not quite sure why it is that YouTube has a goal to get rid of the long-form content, it seems, and to move everything towards shorts. I think that the most likely thing that I am suspecting is that they want to get YouTubers to make a lot of shorts so they can figure out how to make good shorts and then get rid of people entirely and change it all over to AI. But in any case, as a long-form creator, this is getting to be a more and more difficult platform. And so I do want to continue to make long-form videos, but I think that in terms of keeping in touch with subscribers, that doing that through a newsletter is probably the best idea. And I won't just be using the newsletter to tell people about videos, but also to just share my opinions about new products, even if I haven't actually reviewed them on video yet, and also to share recommendations of other people's content that you might be interested in, and also just linking to things like product information sheets and grade sheets. And so I hope that you will subscribe to my newsletter, and a link for that is in the description box and in the pinned post. And before we get started, I did put together a list of the products that I did look at and that I was considering, but that did have ingredients in them that I would like to avoid. And so a lot of these luxury products still are putting fragrance or aluminum powder or other problematic ingredients in their products. And so these include a few of the ones that are from Chanel and a lot of the products that are from Dior and a couple of the ones from Dolce & Gabbana. and most of the products from Tom Ford, unfortunately. And then in addition, I was a little bit interested in the Kosas Lip Pulse lip balms, but unfortunately those do have a lot of different fragrance ingredients in them, and they are supposed to be plumping, and supposedly they are pretty burning, so I probably would have avoided those even if they hadn't had actual fragrance in them. And so now let's talk about a few new products that I have tried out quite a few times and that I have been liking. And so I have some demo footage to show you. And so the first is two concealers, and I think that these concealers are quite similar to one another, and so I thought it'd be a good idea to just compare them. And so the first one is a new concealer that is from Chanel, and this is in the Le Beige line. And then the other concealer is from Chantecaille, and this one is called the Bio-Lifting Concealer. And both of these are about the same price range, and both of these are concealers that do have fairly light coverage, and so they are quite a bit different than some of the other concealers that I have used or that I've recommended or that are from these other brands. And so the first one is the Chanel Le Beige Serum Concealer Natural Healthy Glow, and it is $53. And this one has 15 different shades, and what they are saying is that this is supposed to awaken and illuminate the eye area, and there is supposed to be weightless and buildable coverage. And it's a little bit strange because rather than having a doe foot with a furry type of an applicator, this one just has like a ceramic applicator, and so it's a little bit hard, and so you can pick up some of this product and then kind of smear it on your skin, but it's not really having the cloth consistency that most doe foot applicators do have. And they say that this ceramic applicator is supposed to have a cooling sensation to it. I have not really noticed that at all. And one thing that they are saying is that after 4 weeks of use of this product, the eye area should be looking 30% smoother and more radiant. And the ingredients that are in this include white camellia hydro extract, which they say is supposed to affect moisture levels, and hyaluronic acid, which is supposed to affect hydration. And then in addition to this, then there is meadow foam seed oil, glycerin, coconut oil derivatives, jasmine stem extract, which is in a few other Chanel products as well, and they are saying that that is supposed to be moisturizing and anti-aging. And in terms of ingredients that might concern some people, it has chlorphenicin in it, which is a preservative, tin oxide, which is in a lot of products that have a little bit of shimmer to them, and zinc gluconate. And this is a concealer that does include a good bit of silicone in it. And in general, I have not found this to be irritating at all. I think that my skin has done perfectly fine with it. And the main concern that I have with a lot of concealers is that they do make the wrinkles around my eye area look worse. And I do not feel like that has been the case with this one. I feel like it has worked perfectly fine and that it really doesn't look like I am wearing concealer at all. Now, on the other hand, this is a very light coverage concealer, and so I do not feel like I am getting as much coverage of the dark circles in my under eye area as I do with some of the other concealers in my collection. So that is a negative, and that is part of the reason why the wrinkles are not being made to look worse, but it is a concealer that I am willing to wear. And the shade of this Chanel concealer that I picked up was B10, and I do think that that has been a pretty good shade for me. And then the other concealer that I've been trying out is this new one that is from Chantecaille. And again, this is called the Bio-Lifting Concealer, and it's $68. And so this came out, I guess, a couple weeks ago, and there are 21 different shades. And they are saying that this is supposed to be medium coverage, but my own feeling is that this is pretty much the same amount of coverage as the Chanel concealer, and that it does have somewhat less coverage than some of the other concealers that I have in my collection. And in terms of the skincare benefits, they are saying that this is supposed to reduce wrinkle depth up to 41%, according to a study that they did of 44 women. And they are also saying that this is supposed to have a blurred and light diffusing finish. And this does include some peptides, so if it does decrease wrinkles, then that could be part of the reason why. And in addition, it has an ingredient that's called Gentiana lutea extract, and that is supposed to be depuffing, and Persian silk extract, which is supposed to decrease dark circles. And in general, a lot of the Chantecaille products do include a lot of botanical extracts that I haven't seen other places, and so it is possible that those may be helpful. And this one does not include any standard silicones in it that I recognize on the ingredient list. And the ingredients that I do see in it that I think might be good for the skin include linseed oil, coconut oil derivatives, glycerin, jojoba oil, sodium hyaluronate, and then 2 different peptides. One is palmitoyl tripeptide 1, which I see in quite a lot of different products, and then it also has palmitoyl tripeptide 7. And I also see St. Paul's wort on the ingredient list, and supposedly that is anti-inflammatory and that it has skin restoring properties. Now, it is the case that I do really like a couple of the Chantecaille foundation products. So I have really liked the Future Skin Gel Foundation, which comes in a jar, and I also really like their Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer, which comes in a tube. And both of those products are made in Japan, and so this product is actually made at a totally different factory because this is being marked as being made in Germany. And Germany is where Chantecaille's current owner is located. This is a big company that is called Beiersdorf, and I was afraid when Beiersdorf purchased this company that it was going to have more problems associated with it, but I actually feel like it has been the opposite, and that really most of the products that they have released since being purchased by Beiersdorf have actually been really, really good. And that, so therefore it seems that for those of us who do have sensitive skin and who are really picky about our makeup, that the purchase of this company may have been actually a positive thing. And as I say, this Chantecaille concealer comes in 21 different shades. And so the one that I picked up is called Petal, and this is one that is more on the pinkish side. And in general, I do tend to like concealers that do lean a little bit pink in terms of providing a small amount of color correction on my under eye area. And I do think that this one has been really good. And then in addition, Chantecaille sent me another shade of this, which is in the shade called Alabaster, and this is more of a neutral light shade rather than one that leans a little bit on the cool side, and I think that this one would work fine for me also. And as I mentioned before on this channel, I have concluded that it's probably best for me not to use any kind of skincare or any kind of complexion products that do have any kind of a fragrance in them. And I think that my skin has been in better shape since I have made that decision. And with regard to this Chanel product, I am really happy that this one does not have any kind of a fragrance in it. For the Chantecaille one, this one actually does have a slight rose scent to it. And the reason for that is because it includes an ingredient that is called phenethyl alcohol. And phenethyl alcohol is a ingredient that serves as a preservative, and it could be derived from roses, and that is why it could have that rose scent, but a lot of times it's actually made in a laboratory with other kinds of ingredients, and so I'm not sure how Chantecaille has made that phenethyl alcohol, but it does give this product a bit of a scent. And in a lot of cases, I do feel like my skin reacts to phenethyl alcohol. I don't mind the rose scent so much, but I do feel like my skin tends to be a little bit irritated by it, especially if the scent is strong. And in this case, I have worn this at least maybe 6 or 7 times, and I've worn it all day, and I don't feel like I've been irritated by it. And so that is good, and so I am a little bit interested in continuing to use this, but I do think that people should be aware that it does have a little bit of a rose scent to it, and that maybe other people might find it to be irritating. Now, both Chantecaille and Chanel do have other concealers in their line, and so the main other concealer from Chanel is called the Ultra Latent Concealer, and it's $53. And so this one was released maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and so I did actually do a whole video on this concealer, so if you're interested in it, then you may want to take a look at it. This is a concealer that does have much higher coverage, and I think that compared to most other higher coverage concealers that are on the market. This one actually is quite good in terms of not irritating my face and also in terms of not causing the wrinkles to look worse. So I do think that if you're looking for a higher coverage concealer, this one that is the Ultra Le Temps from Chanel is quite good. And in general, I think it is quite similar to the Estee Lauder Double Wear Concealer, which is also a pretty good concealer as far as I'm concerned. I just tend not to wear concealers that are really high coverage. And with this one, you really need to use just one little dot and then to blend it in really well and to maybe put some moisturizer on before you use it. And with this new Chanel concealer, I think that you may want to be using it much more liberally because it's really not providing very much coverage and because it does have some moisturizing ingredients in it. And this Ultra Le Temps by Chanel has a lot more shades. It does have 28 different shades because it is providing a higher coverage, and so the shade match needs to be more exact. And then Chanel also has a little pot concealer, which is called Sublimage, and I really actually like that one. But I use it less as a concealer, and I use it more to mix with a bit of moisturizer and to use as an overall face tint, and I do like that one quite a lot. And it certainly is the case that if you are using a product like this one that comes with a little doe foot, that is going to be a little bit less messy than getting out that big pot. And a couple of years ago, I did find that Sublimage concealer to be really impressive compared to everything else that is on the market. But concealers have been moving along so fast in terms of getting better and better by the minute that I think that there are a lot of other good options. And for Chantecaille, they have a concealer that has been out for at least 4 or 5 years, I think, and that is called Le Camouflage Stylo, and that one is $64, so that's like a concealer pen. And that one is one that I have tried, and I don't think that my face really liked that all that much, and so I kind of put it aside, and I may have given it to someone. So that was not one that I liked a whole lot, but I do think it's a lot like, for instance, the YSL pen concealer, which is called Touche l'Éclat. And so I do think that this one has worked better for me in terms of how it looks and also in terms of it not irritating my face. And so the question here is whether or not these new concealers from Chanel or Chantecaille are better than my current concealers that I like the most. And so the ones that I use pretty much almost exclusively are both the Creal concealer and also the RMS concealer. And I do think that both of these are very similar to one another, both in terms of how they perform and in terms of a lot of the ingredients. And I have been really, really happy with both of these. And I also think that the Say Slip Tint Concealer, that one is pretty similar to these also, and so that is one that I also am willing to use. And I would say that both of these and the Say one, that they're all giving a bit more coverage than either the Chanel concealer or the Chantecaille concealer, and so therefore, because I do feel like dark circles are an issue for me, that these work a little bit more easily on my face, and I feel like they're looking just as good in terms of not exacerbating the wrinkles, but they are giving a little more coverage. And neither of those have any kind of a scent in them, and neither does the Say one. And so I think that there's nothing wrong with the new Chanel concealer and the new Chantecaille one, and I will use them from time to time, but I think that in terms of the ones that I would continue to repurchase, it would be both of these products. And you can look at the comparisons for cost per gram for the price. In general, in a lot of cases, it seems like some of these products are less expensive than others, but in a lot of cases that is because there is less of the product in the container. But in any case, I feel like the Creal one in particular is one that I really do like using a lot and that I'm going to continue to use. And the RMS one, actually, you can get a 20% off discount by using my code, which is LisaP20 at any time on the RMS website, and so that does make it a little bit more affordable. And speaking of Creal, I also am trying on a new bronzer shade from that line. So this is their cream bronzer, and this is called the Creal Just Like Paradise Sculpting Cream, and it is $50. And so the new shade is called 1.5. And I actually really like this formula, and so in the past I actually purchased two different formulas from before, and I did find that the shade that it was 1.0 seemed to be a little bit too orange for me to use comfortably, and then the 2.0 one was quite a bit darker, and it did lean slightly red, and so I felt like it was a little bit easier for me to wear, but that it still wasn't ideal, and so I've really rarely worn those. But when I saw that this particular one, the 1.5, was supposed to be quite reddish, I decided to give this one a try. So there is a lot of that pinky red color in this, and it's not quite as dark as that 2.0. And I actually feel like this has been really good for me, and that it does go on really translucent, and so it does look pretty natural on my skin, and it's not so red that it is looking sunburned, but I do think that it is really attractive and that it's just kind of easygoing for the summer. And so some of the ingredients in this include some coconut oil derivatives and some mushroom extracts and 9 different peptides. And I have been wearing this over the past several days, and I do feel like my skin likes this one a lot, and that it also looks really pretty on my skin, and it does give just a little bit of a moisturized, balmy type of a look that I really enjoy and that I think is attractive in the summer, but without all of the greasiness or the scent that something like the Jones Road Miracle Balm has. And so I have been really happy with this, and I do think that this is one of the bronzers that I am going to continue to use most frequently as this summer goes on. And then another product that I picked up is from Dior, and this is the Dior Show 5 Colors Eye Quint, and this is in the color of Summer Azure. And so I do kind of like a bluish type of an eyeshadow, and so I thought that I would give this a try, and it did look kind of summery to me. And I did look at some of the pictures that Dior had provided, and I was kind of under the impression that this was going to be brighter, and I feel like regardless of how I have applied it and whether I've used a natural brush or my finger or a synthetic brush, I do feel like this has been going on really kind of delicately, and so I think that that's actually been really attractive. And recently I was watching a scene from the movie When Harry Met Sally, and this is really reminding me of the very beginning of the movie when it was the 1970s and the two characters were on that road trip, and the Meg Ryan character was wearing eyeshadow that looked very much like this to my eyes. And so I thought that was kind of interesting, and that's maybe about 50 years ago, and so I think that it's kind of making sense that it would kind of be back in style again. And I found this to be actually kind of attractive, and so I've been wearing this quite a bit over this summer, and I think that I will kind of continue to wear this. In general, I think a lot of the Dior eyeshadows either have aluminum powder in them, or they are really kind of go on my eyes and they turn into kind of like a nothing type of a thing. But I think that this one has actually been quite pretty. It is, again, very subtle, but I think that the look that I'm getting from it is quite nice and a nice little summertime treat. And I do really like the way that these flowers are kind of embossed into this eyeshadow. Eventually they do wear down, but I've worn this maybe more than half a dozen times so far, and I can still see the flowers. And one thing that I will note is that there is a companion piece for this that is called Sunset Bronze, which is more leaning into the browns, but that one does have aluminum powder in it, and so therefore I wasn't interested in purchasing that one because aluminum powder does tend to be really irritating for my eyes most of the time. And then to go along with this eye look, I decided to use an eyeliner from a new company that is called Mature Beauty. And this is from a YouTuber whose channel is called Glam Girl Gabby. And so she is a makeup artist, and I think she's just in her 30s, but she does focus a lot on older women on her channel. And then occasionally she has Rosemary Swift as a guest on her channel from RMS. And so I do really like those videos in particular. And so she released these new eye pencils that are supposed to be specifically designed for women with more mature skin, and so I decided to give them a try. And a couple of them did have aluminum powder in them. The shades that do have aluminum powder or chocolate brown and steel gray, and so I decided not to get that. But I did pick up this one, which is in the shade of Champagne Bronze, which is a lighter color, and I really, really like it quite a lot, actually. And I think that it is somewhat similar to the Sarah Creal eyeliners that I have liked so much, and it does go on really, really easily, but it stays in place really easily, and it also has a brush on the end, and I do think that this brush is pretty good quality. And so overall, I have been really, really impressed with those Sarah Creal eyeliners, but I feel like this one is comparing quite well, actually, to the Sarah Creal eyeliners, and this one is considerably less expensive at only $25. And so I don't have any connection at all to this YouTube channel. I've never had any kind of a conversation or anything with Glam Girl Gabby, but I have been really liking this one, and so I am a little bit interested in buying at least one more of these. The other two shades that they have, there's one that's a dark brown. It's sort of a black-brown color, and then there's one that's black, and so I think I'll probably at least pick up that dark brown one and give it a try. And I really do think that this champagne bronze color has been really, really good for me. It's not so light that I don't feel like it is drawing very much attention to my eyes, but it does have a little bit of a shimmer in it, and I haven't found it to be irritating whatsoever. And I think it does add just a little bit of interest, and especially when I'm wearing something like this where I don't want a dark eyeliner, but I want something that's just a little bit more definition to my eyes. I think that this has been really, really good. And then I just put on some of my Makeup by Mario brown mascara and just to finish off the look. And then finally, in terms of the mini look that I put together, I picked up 2 of the blush sticks from Kosas, and so these are brand new, and they may only be on Sephora, I think, and these are called the Kosas Impressionist Multisticks, and so I picked up one that is called Intuition, which is described as a lived-in muted pink that feels palette mixed, and then also one that is called Surreal, which is described as a chocolate berry that diffuses like fall light. And there are 7 shades altogether, and they are supposed to be usable on your lips as well as your cheeks. And I actually really, really like these, and I feel like they are very, very similar to the House Labs blush sticks that I've liked quite a lot. And I did feel like the House Labs ones were a little bit on the bright side for me, but then this past summer, a year ago, they came out with a line that was kind of like blushy bronzers, and I did like all of those quite a lot. And so the 2 shades that I picked up are kind of, I feel like, on the muted side, and I really do like these quite a lot. I think that they go on the skin really easily, but they stay in place fairly well, which I think is also the case with that House Labs product. And I do think that these are workable on my lips, and that when I wear them on my lips, that they do stay in place really easily. And I haven't actually seen all of these colors for this. I've only seen them online, and so I'm hoping that they will come to one of my local Sephora stores so that I can try them out in the store. But I am liking these enough that I really am tempted to buy more of them, just because they are performing really, really nicely for me. And I do feel like they are really easygoing, but they don't seem to disappear really fast. And in general, I think that compared to an awfully lot of the other products that are in my collection, I like these quite a bit. And these are made in Italy, by the way, and I think the quality is really here for these. And so now let's move on and talk about the rest of the products in alphabetical order by the name of the company. And although I'm not going to be talking a lot about skincare products in this video, I did think that I would mention a new one that is from Augustinus, and that is a company that I'm especially interested in myself. And I do think that a lot of people found their way to my channel as a result of watching my video where I talked about my experiment using Augustinus Rich Cream on half of my face for a whole year. And so that is a brand that I have continued to purchase and to use. And so they do have a new product that has just been released, and this is called the Overnight Restorative Cream, and it is $365 for 1.7 ounces. And this does have the proprietary peptide in it that all of the Augustinus products have, and so that is supposed to help to rejuvenate the skin and in addition it does have some of the other ingredients that do tend to be in all the Augustinus butter products. And so this one also has what they are calling a Cica Recovery Complex, and they are saying that it has purified Centella asiatica, which is supposed to support recovery, calm redness, and strengthen the skin barrier. And so for those of us who do have sensitive skin, that might be of interest. And then they also say that it has Nordic rosehip extract in it, which they say is a melatonin mimicking extract that visibly reduces signs of fatigue overnight. And then it also has some more common skincare ingredients in it, including squalene, glycerin, sodium hyaluronate, and mushroom extract, and some other things. And so I have not purchased that yet, but I am interested in it, and I kind of think that when it comes on sale somewhere, for instance in the periodic sales that Blue Mercury have, where if you buy like $200 worth of products that you can get a 20% discount. And I do think that I would like to give this a try and then let you know what I think of this compared to the other products from Augustinus Butter that I've tried. Recently I did a video where I talked about all of the sunscreens that I could find that did not have any kind of sunscreen boosters or chemical sunscreens in them. And so a new sunscreen that has been released since then is the Bare Minerals Bareskin Daily Dewy Sunscreen. And this is SPF 30 and it is being sold for $39. And so there are 4 different shades, and so the lightest shade is just a plain white that is supposed to be translucent, and then there also are medium, dark, and deep shades, and this one does not have any silicone in it, so that makes me more interested in it. And I am not seeing any ingredients in this one that do concern me or think that they would be irritating for my skin or in general that I am trying to avoid. And the skincare ingredients that are in this include niacinamide, glycerin, sodium hyaluronate, and vitamin C. And so although I'm not always happy with the products that I have purchased from Bare Minerals, I do think that if I just look at the ingredient list for this one, it does look pretty promising. And so I am interested in picking that one up and giving it a try and reporting back to you. And Bare Minerals also released a new lip and cheek stick, and this is called the Gen Nude Dew in One, and there are 5 different shades. And I'm not really seeing a lot of skincare ingredients in this, but I am kind of interested in it, and so hopefully this will end up at Ulta where I can give it a try and see if I would actually like to actually purchase it. Caliray has a new liquid highlighter, and this is called the Light Source Blurring and Hydrating Illuminator for $29. And I am not seeing any ingredients in this that concern me or make me think that it would be irritating. It does have some plastics in it, and so that is not my favorite thing to see on an ingredient list, but in general I think it's probably fine, and so I would be a little bit interested in giving this one a try. I'm not really seeing skincare ingredients in this though, so I think that this is more for cosmetic purposes rather than something that is supposed to actually help your skin. And I am a big fan of the Chanel lip pencils, and so I have picked up 5 different shades of these. And if I am using a lipstick and I want to have a lip pencil that coordinates with it, I think that these have often worked really, really well for me. And they are $37. And so Chanel has come out with some new shades. And I think they may be limited edition. I'm not sure about that. But the ones that are new are Beige Rose, which they describe as being a rosewood beige, and Brun Rouge, which is a red-brown, Brun Sienne, which is a sienna brown, and Beige Fauve, which they say is a warm beige. And then in addition to the concealer that I have already talked about, they are going to be releasing what they are calling the Chanel Multi-Use Duo Blush and Balm Sticks. And apparently those are only available so far through some of the actual stores. They do not seem to be on the website or any websites at present. But I have been hearing some reports that they do not include any fragrance in them, so I am hopeful that this might be a product that I might be able to pick up. So this is a dual end blush and balm stick. So on one end there is a blush, and then on the other end there's something that's like a highlighter balm, which looks like it may be somewhat similar to the highlighter balms from Chanel that I do like, which are called Baume Essentielle. And so I think that that could be a product that I would like to pick up, as long as it doesn't have any ingredients in it that surprise me. Now, Chantecaille is coming out with a new bronzer, and this seems to be the same bronzer that they have had in the past in some of their limited editions, and so it is called Real Bronze, and it is $68, and there are 2 different shades. And I actually just did a video where I talked about the Sisley bronzer, which I actually do really like, and then I talked for quite a long time about how I thought that it was very similar to the Chantecaille bronzer that was no longer available, that had been in limited edition collections, and that I wish that Chantecaille would bring that back. And the day that I released that video is the day that Chantecaille did announce that they were coming out with this new bronzer, and so I am really happy about that. And especially if you compare this to the price of the Sisley bronzer, the Chantecaille bronzer, while it's still very expensive, seems like a bit of a deal because it is $68 as opposed to like $130 for this bronzer. And I do think it's about the same, and I think it's about the same amount of product that is in it. And so there are 2 different shades, and so one of them is called Serena, which is a soft golden bronze, and then the other one is called Soleil, which is a soft cocoa bronze. And so occasionally Chantecaille will send me some products, and so I'm kind of hoping maybe they will send me those. But if they don't, I am a little bit tempted to try out both of them, just because I think that both of those colors might actually work for me and to give kind of a different look. And so this is a bronzer that you are supposed to use just to simulate the look of a tan. And so they are suggesting that you should apply it to the high points of the face where the sun naturally hits, such as forehead, tops of cheeks, and tip of the nose. And this includes fairly similar ingredients to the Sisley bronzer, including cetyl ethyl hexanoate, hydrolyzed rice protein, glycerin, squalene, dimethicone. So these are pretty typical ingredients, and I think that based on my experience with that bronzer, trying it out in the Blue Mercury store a number of years ago, I think that this is also a real winner that you may want to think about picking up. And as I talked about in my Sisley video, this is fairly similar to the RMS bronzer, and so that is one of the reasons that I want to pick up both of these shades so that I can actually compare them on camera to both the Sisley bronzer and to the RMS bronzer, so that you will have a better chance of deciding exactly which color you might want to pick up if you're interested in this sort of a bronzer. Charlotte Tilbury released several new products. So the first one is the Pillow Talk Blush Balm Lip Tint for $32. This comes in 6 different shades, and one of those is a bright cherry red. And so I did pick this one up because I am kind of on an ongoing quest to find lipsticks that do give me a little bit of a red lipstick look without being too saturated and without looking too bright for my sort of low contrast complexion. And so I do like this one. I do think it is quite moisturizing, and it does feel good on my lips. So it has shea butter, cocoa butter, squalene, and 2 different peptides in it. And it also does have ethyl vanillin in it, and so that is something that I do kind of tend to avoid. Sometimes it's worse than others, and I think that this one is sort of about the same as the other Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks in terms of the amount of vanillin in it. So I don't think that this is my favorite in terms of how it tastes, but in terms of it being okay for me and something that I am able to wear, I think it has been fine. And this is made in Italy, and I do think this is a quality product, and the case I think is particularly nice. And Charlotte Tilbury also came out with a line of eyeshadow sticks. So these are called the Exaggerize Easy Eyeshadow Sticks, and they are $32. And 6 of the shades are mattes, and 6 of the shades are shimmer. And I did look at the ingredient list for all of these, and I am not seeing any aluminum powder, and so that does make me kind of happy and definitely interested in giving those a try when they do come to the store. And so they are suggesting that the way to use this is to sculpt in the crease using the matte shade and then to use the shimmer shade on top of the whole thing. And so I think that some of these colors do look nice and that I would like to give them a try. And then there's also a cheek palette that is called Love at First Swipe Cream Palette. This is $80 and I think it's only available at Bloomingdale's. And there are two different shades, so one is for lighter skin and one is for darker skin, or for people that like really bright colors. But I feel like even in the lighter one that the colors are still pretty bright and probably brighter than I would like. And that was also the case with the blush sticks that Charlotte Tilbury came out with last year, that I do feel like they were way too bright for me. And so that seems to be the case with this palette as well. And so I wonder if it's even the same formula as the blush sticks or something kind of similar. But for me, I think that this one will just continue to be a pass. Now, Ciele is a company that is designed to put sunscreen in all of their products, and almost all of their products do have chemical sunscreen boosters in them, as well as mineral sunscreens, and so therefore I am not able or interested in using any of those products. And so they did, however, come out with a new bronzer that is a powder bronzer that seems not to have any kind of chemical sunscreen boosters in it. And so this is called the Shade and Protect Powder Bronzer, SPF 45, and it is $36. And so it just has titanium dioxide and zinc oxide in it. My suspicion is, because it's not saying that it's not nano, that it probably is nano. And so some people may be concerned about that. There are 4 different shades, and based on the photos, I am not sure that the lightest shade would probably be appropriate for me. It looks a little bit like it might be the wrong color for my skin. And so I'm sort of hoping that maybe that will come to Sephora so I can actually try it and report back to you on it, rather than just going ahead and springing for it. Recently, I did a video talking about every product that is being sold by Counter Beauty, which is the reincarnation of Beauty Counter. And so the new makeup product that was released by Counter Beauty is a bronzer. So this is a cream bronzer, and it is available in 4 different shades, and it's called the Velvet Cream Bronzer. And it is silicone-based, and it does include some nice moisturizing ingredients in it, including squalane, coconut oil, and some coconut oil derivatives. And so I did try this one out, and I think it's pretty nice. I think that I can get some use out of it, and so I am happy to see that this company is back in business. Danessa Myricks has a couple of new eye product shades, and so the first ones are for the Color Fix sticks, which are $38, so you get 2 different eyeshadow shades on each stick. And my experience with those sticks was that a lot of people do seem to really, really like them, and my own feeling is that they tended not to last all that well on my eyes. They tended to disappear pretty fast, and in addition, the colors seem to be a little bit flamboyant for me, and so I don't think that I'm probably going to buy any more other than the one that I already have. But the new shades that they have are one that has Midnight Blue Metallic with Indigo and Baby Blue Shimmer on one end, and then Smoky Lilac with Opal Shimmer on the other end. And then the second one says that it has Dark Olive Metallic with Taupe Shimmer on one end, and then Sage Green Foil with Champagne Sparkle on the other end. And I do tend to really like eyeshadows that lean green, and so for that reason, I do think that I will take a look at Sephora to see if they have this new version in, because maybe I would especially like that one. And then the third new Color Fix stick is called Duo Infinity, where on one end there is an iridescent sky blue foil with blue and violet sparkle, and on the other end there is champagne pink foil with pink and gold sparkle. And then in addition, Danessa Myricks has what she is calling the Mini Everyday Magic Palette, and that is $48. And so this is one section of her really large palette that was much more expensive, and a lot of those eyeshadows that are in that palette do have aluminum powder in them, but all of the shades in this particular section of the palette do not have aluminum powder in them, and so I did try that out on my hand in the store, and I feel like the colors are kind of on the dark side for me, and that it would be a little bit difficult for me to wear it and have it look as natural as I would like. And so I think that if you're looking for more like a smoky type of a look, or if you have coloring that is darker than mine, then this one might be good for you, but I don't think that it probably would be ideal for me based on my experience trying it out. In addition to the eyeshadow palette that I talked about, Dior also has a line of what they are calling flash sticks, which are basically just eyeshadow sticks, and they are $42, and so there is a mixture of mattes and shimmers and then kind of sparkly topper shades. And so all of these I did look at the ingredient list for on the website, and it looks like none of the shades have aluminum powder in them except for one that is called Beige Mitza. And so the one that I picked up is called Brun Poncho, and so this is supposed to be a bronze metallic, and I think that this one is actually kind of nice, and so it does, it's kind of a warm brown, and it just have just a bit of metallic in it. And I do think that it has gone on my eyes nicely and that it has held up pretty nicely. And so $42 for an eyeshadow stick is kind of on the expensive side, and I don't know that this one is any better than, for instance, the Ilia eyeshadow sticks, which are much more reasonably priced, and I think that those have been at least as good in that they have more interesting colors to them. I do think the one that they have from Dior that's called Lucky Clover, which is a green shade, does look kind of interesting. So in general, I don't see any reason why people shouldn't buy this particular product, except that I think there are an awful lot of eyeshadow sticks on the market right now, and a lot of them are very nice also. And then in addition, Dior has released some new shades in their Backstage Rosy Glow Powder Blush. So these are $42, and this was reformulated last year, and so I think that the new version was a lot better than the previous version, and I did pick up one shade of that in a shade that was called Toffee, which I thought was kind of nice. That is scented with raspberry ketones, and so it does have kind of a raspberry scent to it, but it is kind of a natural raspberry scent, and I don't mind that too much. And so the 4 new shades that are in this include Goji, which is a burgundy with golden shimmer, Guava, which is a vibrant pink with golden shimmer, Dragon Fruit, which is a powdery pink mauve with golden shimmer, and Pomelo, which is nude pink with golden shimmer. And so all of those are kind of more on the sparkly side, whereas I think that the ones that were released in the past were at least not as shimmery as these appear to be. So I probably won't be picking this up myself, but I think that this is an okay blush formula, especially if you don't mind that raspberry scent to it. Dolce & Gabbana is now at Sephora, and in addition, there are a couple of new products that they have released this year that I did think were worth picking up. And so the first one is the I Dare You Beyond palette, which is $95. And so this is kind of a weird palette. It's kind of strange because of the packaging for this. It has a kind of a lightweight plastic that looks like metal, and then it has this chain that is supposed to hang off of it, although the chain can be removed. And so all of that is a little bit strange, and the way that the shades are organized in here is a little bit odd also. This is a palette that I think is really not so much an everyday palette for me as an addition palette, and so I feel like a lot of these are kind of topper shades that are really interesting looking that I probably wouldn't wear on their own. And I feel like especially if I use them on top of a eyeshadow stick that is matte, like for instance the Jones Road eyeshadow sticks, that these make them much more interesting and are very pretty. And then that also has a couple of other shades of match colors in here, this blue one and this sea green one. I think that those are really usable for me. And then it has a brown color in here that I think is okay as an eyeliner, and then this black color, which I think is also okay as an eyeliner if I'm looking for black, which I'm usually not. And so in general, I think that this is kind of a fun palette, and that the colors that are in here that are all of these sparkly topper shades, they're really quite interesting. And so I do enjoy pulling this one out, even though it is kind of on the funky side. And it's also pretty expensive, which is $95. And so even though you probably can get it on sale because it is a permanent release, I do think it's a little bit on the pricey side, but I think it's also been kind of fun and I have enjoyed it. And then in addition, Dolce & Gabbana this year came out with a line of eyeliner pencils, and so there are 8 different shades. These are called the Sleek Kohl Glider Eyeliner Pencils, and they are $35. And so I did pick up one of these, and you know what? I haven't actually tried it out yet, and so I do want to do a video where I demonstrate a bunch of different new products in a number of different looks, and so I will give this one a try in that video. Now, another skincare brand that I do like is Dr. Barbara Sturm. I find that their serums have been particularly good for me in terms of making my face less red and less irritated. And so I do feel like if I continue to use even like 1 drop of that in a mixture and mixed into my moisturizer, that my face is less red and then I need to use even less concealer on my face. And so that has been worth it for me. And so they have 2 new products that interested me a bit. And so the first one is called the Everything Bronzing Drops, and they are $160. And so they are basically like a regular liquid bronzer, except that they do have some good skincare ingredients in them. And they seem to be a formula that is pretty similar to one of Dr. Barbara Sturm's most popular products, which is their Glow Drops, which is just a liquid highlighter. And so this is like a liquid highlighter, but it's more like a bronzy color, or if you have darker skin, then it may just work as a highlighter for you. And my feeling about these was that I did try them out at Blue Mercury, and I feel like for my skin tone, I felt like they were leaning just a little bit green. And I tend to feel like when I am using bronzers that lean green at all, that they tend to look a little bit muddy on me. And so I didn't feel enthusiastic enough about this to pick it up right away, at least not at full price. But I do think that it seems like it's a nice product and that I would be a little bit interested in trying it out. I just think that for me, it might not be the best color. But that if people have olive skin or skin that leans a little bit less peach and more olive than I do, maybe that would be particularly good for you. And then in addition, Dr. Barbara Sturm has a new peptide serum, and this is $260, and it has 6 different peptides in it, and the ingredient list, as far as I can see, does look like it should be okay, and so I would be interested in giving that a try. My favorite squeezy tube lip balms continue to be the ones from Edam, which are called Le Chouchou. And so they came out with 2 new versions in their permanent line. So both of these lean more pink than the ones that they have released in the past. And so the first one is the one that I'm trying on in the video footage, which is called Sakura Shaved Ice. And so this is a matte pink, and it has some vanillin in it. And again, even though I'm usually not that big of a fan of vanillin, I think that these are okay, and that it is tastes fine to me, and so I don't mind wearing this. And then in addition, there's one that's called Chateau Rose that I also picked up, and this is a more of a translucent color with just a hint of pink, and it also has quite a bit of sparkle in it. And this one has a flavor that is like a bitter lemon type of a flavor, and so they are saying that it's lemon meringue pie, but I do feel like it has a bit of a bitterness to it. But I don't find that that's bad, and I have been inclined to wear that one also. Now, Fenty is a company that seems to focus a lot on bronzers, so they already have a powder one and a cream one, and I actually have both of those, and then they have some contour products. And so this year they came out with still another bronzer, and so this one is called the Stalk'r Soufflé Pressed Mousse Cream Bronzer, and it's $39, and there are 8 different shades. And 2 of these are supposed to be appropriate for those of us who have lighter skin, and so one is called Sugar Cookie, and then the other one is a bit darker, and then that one is called Biscotti. And so I decided to make a special trip to Sephora just to give this one a try. And I think that in general, I did take a look at it in the store and I was able to swatch it and to try it on my face. And I feel like both of those shades do lean a bit on the orange side and a bit more orange than makes me comfortable. And I feel like they're also a little bit on the dry side. And so I think that probably they are more intended for people that do not have skin that is quite as dry as mine. But I do think that they are kind of nice nonetheless. And I think that they remind me a bit of the formula that the Westman Atelier has, which is also one of those cream to powder type of formulas. And so that is kind of the idea with that. And I do think that the Westman Atelier one has been working a lot better for me, both in terms of the shades that are in this one and also in terms of the consistency of the product. But I think that if you are interested in a product that's a cream to powder like this, then it might be worth it to go to Ulta or Sephora and give that one a try for yourself. And Haus Labs has re-released their liquid lipstick. So this is called Atomic Shake Lacquer Lipstick, and it is $28. And I am not that crazy about liquid lipsticks to begin with, and this one, when I first started to investigate Haus Labs, I did feel like people were not liking that one very much, and so I never actually purchased it. And so now they have re-released it. It is $28. And so in terms of looking at the ingredient list for this, it does have some sodium hyaluronate in it and some coconut oil derivatives, and so maybe it would be at least moisturizing. But in general, I am pretty suspicious about this, so maybe I will experiment with it a bit at the store, but I kind of feel like that's not the right lipstick for me. Now, generally in these videos, I don't talk about perfumes, but this month I did find a perfume that I really liked, and so I thought that I would just discuss this a bit. And so the product that I really liked enough to purchase was this one that is from Heretic, and this is called Blood Orange, and so it is $165, but I was able to get it on a discount. And so this one has all essential oils in it. It does not have any kind of synthetics, and it doesn't have any kind of natural processed fragrances apart from the essential oils. And the essential oils that are in this include bitter orange peel, jasmine, bergamot peel, rose, champaca, and neroli. And so I do especially like all of those different fragrances. And so when they mix them all together in this, I think that it has just a little bit of orange or citrus flavor to it, but it's a bit more sophisticated than that. And I do feel like I feel very comfortable wearing this. Now, I do think that my favorite fragrance continues to be Scarlet Moon, which is a collaboration between this Heretic company and RMS, but I think that this is a very nice alternative to that, and that I do like it almost as much. Now, before I purchased that, I did get a chance to try out a sample of that product, and I picked up from Heretic this product, which is called Blood Box, which has 4 different perfumes in it, and all 4 of these do have only natural fragrances in them, and so the other 3 that are in this box are Bloodberry, Dragon's Blood, and Blood Cedar, and so all 4 of these samples were $35. Now, Hourglass has a new highlighter. This is called the Unreal Liquid Highlighter, and it is $38. And this is actually very similar to the Unreal Liquid Blush that they released a couple of years ago. And it comes in a package that you turn it upside down, and then you press on the bottom, and it comes out in little drops. And I really did not like that blush at all. I felt like it was very messy, and it was kind of patchy, and it was just kind of not very much fun to use, and I didn't really like the results of it that much. But I did try out this new highlighter at Sephora, and I liked it quite a bit more. I feel like this formula works a lot better in a highlighter because it doesn't go patchy as much, and it doesn't seem as messy as when I'm using a colored blush. And so there are 5 different shades of this. I tried out the lightest one, and I think that that was appropriate for my skin. And so I would be a little bit interested in purchasing it. It does have a lot of acrylates in the formula, and I feel like I already have quite a lot of highlighters that I do like quite a lot. And so I don't know if I am all that enthusiastic about actually using this on a regular basis, but I do think that it is at least a usable product and that a lot of people might like it, especially if they do like kind of a liquid highlighter. Hung Van Gogh came out with a couple of new products that have been released through Sephora and his own website. And so the first one is the Tan Sculpt Cream Bronzing Contour Balm. This is $34 and it is available in 8 shades. And in general, I do feel like the Hung Van Gogh line does tend to be not so much appropriate for people that have lighter skin tones. And so this is the lightest shade. This is called Present, and I feel like this is a shade that I can kind of wear and kind of get away with in terms of giving myself just a little bit more of a suntanned type of a glow. I don't think it's really orange, and I think it works okay for me, but I do think that if my skin were more light and more pink, that this would probably not be that appropriate. So I kind of feel like if he was going to release 8 different shades, that releasing one that is really good for people with really light and really cool skin, that they could have done a lot better than this particular one with that formula. And they are saying that you could use this as a bronzer or as a contour, and I kind of feel like as a contour this would probably be a little bit on the warm side. And then in addition, they came out with a line of lip glosses. So this is called the Glossy Lip Hue Hydrating Lip Shine. It's $26, and there are 12 different shades. And so it comes with a squeezy tube type of an applicator. So I'll put a little bit of this on. And the shade that I picked up is called Limitless Sky. So this is kind of a medium toned berry, so that there are quite a few shades that are much darker than this one, and then there are a few shades that are lighter. And in general, I think this is kind of a nice formula. It is very glossy, and it is kind of on the bright side, even though it's not one of the brightest shades that they are making. And the ingredients that are in this include meadow foam seed oil, sodium hyaluronate, glycerin, and snow fungus. And I have picked up one of almost all of the products that Hung Van Gogh makes, and so probably I should do a whole video on this line because there are some products that I have liked, and there are some products that I was surprised that I didn't like all that much, and so I think it is worth a try to go back and let you know what I think of all of these products. And then Ilia has come out with a couple of new products. So the first one is a new concealer that is called Skin Blur Serum Concealer. This is $32, and it is available in 34 shades. This is made in Italy, and it does have some skincare ingredients in this, including glycerin, caffeine, coffee seed extract, 2 peptides, and sunflower oil, and then it also has a little bit of sodium lactate in it. And in general, I think that this has been okay for me. I haven't found it to be irritating, and I also haven't found it to make the wrinkles and other kinds of texture in my eye area to look a lot worse. So I do feel like this has been a usable product for me. I don't feel like this has been as good as the concealers that I have liked the most, which are the Sarah Creal concealer and also the RMS concealer. I feel like this is a little bit further down, but I do think that compared to really all of the concealers that have been on the market prior to a year or two ago, this one is still pretty good. And so especially since it does have that caffeine in it and those peptides in it, I think that some people might be interested in this one. And then Ilia also came out with a new finishing powder, and so this is called the Soft Focus Finishing Powder, and it's $44. There's 3 different shades, and at first this was only at Ulta, but now I see that it is moving into Sephora. And so based on the ingredients, I do think that it is very similar to the Ilia blushes, which I do like very, very much. And so it has some coconut oil derivatives, squalane, glycerin, and a fermented ingredient in it. And so I am guessing that maybe it's a little bit similar to this Say powder, which is probably not going to be really oil absorbing, but which I do think can serve to provide a nice finish on the face and kind of a nice texture to the face. And so that would be my guess about this new finishing powder, and I would kind of like to try it out before actually springing for it because it is $44. But in any case, Ilia has been making a lot of really good products recently, and so that does make me interested in this one. Jane Iredale has a new pen concealer that is being promoted as an under-eye concealer. So this is called the Skin Tuition Brightening Under-Eye Concealer. It's $36, and it's available in 16 different shades. And so this includes glycerin, niacinamide, coconut oil derivatives, and palmitoyl tetrapeptide 7, so those all might be good for me. It does have some algae extract in it, and I tend to be a little suspicious about algae extract and worried that it might have contaminants in it. But I would like to give this a try, and so my hope is that this will be available at Blue Mercury so that I can go to the store and actually try it out before actually purchasing it. Now, Jones Road has released several new products this year, and so I do want to do a full video talking about all of these products, and for the meantime, I can just tell you about my experiences with each of them. And so the first one is called Your Foundation Stick, and it is $38, and there are 30 different shades, and so the shade that I picked up is Linen, and I think this shade has been fine for me. And so this does seem to be a foundation stick that has a lot of moisturizing ingredients in it. It has squalane, shea butter, ceramides, sodium hyaluronate, vitamin C, and sunflower oil. And so I do think that it has more moisturizing in it than really any of the other foundation sticks that are on the marketplace, including more than the Bobbi Brown foundation stick, which actually has been my favorite up until this point. And it has kind of a tacky finish to it, and so I think that the reason for that is because it does work well with this moisturizing ingredients in it without making it feel kind of slick. And so I have liked this quite a lot. I do think that this is less of a concealer foundation stick and more as a foundation stick that is something that I actually use over my entire face as I would a liquid foundation. I do think that it works a lot better for that. It's not really giving a lot of coverage, and so therefore I think that sticking with their concealer sticks that are in the little pencils and then just using this as an overall foundation stick that I just put on and then blend in, I think that that works a little bit better for me than thinking that this is going to be my main coverage product. But in general, I do like this quite a lot, and I think that it is quite a lot different than any of the other foundation sticks that are on the market, and I think that especially for travel, this could be a good product. But I am thinking I might use it more and more just when I am at home because it has been working well for me. And so I will give you some more details and a demonstration in an upcoming video soon, I hope. And one thing that I actually did notice after I shot this part of the video is that Wayne Goss did a whole video where he was complaining that the new Jones Road foundation stick was not full coverage, and I didn't even notice before that they were saying that it is medium to full coverage, and I totally agree with Wayne that this is not a full coverage product at all. It's really offering, in my opinion, kind of a light coverage that maybe you could build up to a medium coverage. So I would not expect that from this product, but I do think that I like the way it goes on my skin and that it looks very nice. Another product that came out this year is the blushing stick, and these are $34 and they are available in 9 shades. And so those people who are fans of Jones Road will recall that they did used to have a lip and cheek stick, and those went off the market, and apparently the reason for that is because the factory that used to make them kind of stopped being able to produce them because it got sold, and the new owners didn't seem to be able to make the older product, and so they decided to start again from scratch. And so these new blushing sticks, they are supposed to also be for lips and cheeks. They are much smaller, and whether or not that is good or bad may depend on your point of view. I did really like the old lip and cheek sticks, but they were quite large, and I actually liked using them as lip products. They were really the only product on the market that I really liked using for both lips and cheeks, but they were such large products that I didn't feel like I could carry them around with me very easily. So if you like these products and you want to use them on the lips, then certainly I think that this size is much more appropriate to put in your bag and carry with you. And so that part is good, but I think that you are getting a lot less product than you used to get for a similar amount of money. And there are 9 different shades of these, and so I picked up one that's called Joy, which is kind of a berry type of a shade that I think is kind of pretty. And there's also one that is called Chic, which is kind of a pinky brown type of a shade. I was a little bit disappointed because I don't feel like there was one that was in a shade that was similar to the chocolate mocha that I used to really like in this line. So everything does lean a little bit more pink and less bronzy than it used to. But in general, I think that this is a very nice formula, and it tastes good to me. It feels good to me. The ingredients that are in this, it includes castor oil, safflower, and ceramides. It does include some different C ingredients in it, and so I think that that is kind of a base for this. So it has chlorella, spirulina, and sea fennel in it, and so those always make me a little bit nervous in terms of whether they could be contaminated, but I have not found these to be irritating at all. And I think that as lip products go, they are quite nice. And on the cheeks, I think that they are also pretty nice and that they do last pretty long. And so in general, if they had to get rid of the old version, I think that this is a perfectly fine new version, even though I think that probably some people will object to the fact that the amount of product that you are getting is a smaller amount. Another new product that I just picked up is called the Sleepless Nights Kit, and this is supposed to be for new moms, but it does have 2 products in it that are new to the world, and so I did want to give those a try. And so these are the Lip Restore Overnight Mask and the Brightening Rich Eye Cream. And so the idea with the Brightening Rich Eye Cream, I think, is that it's about the same formula as their regular Rich Eye Cream, but it has a tint in it, and so there are 3 different versions of this. There is Bisque, which is supposed to be the lightest version, Peach, and then Apricot. And so the one that I picked up is Bisque, so you can see that this is actually fairly dark in terms of what it looks like in the container. But I do feel like when I put it on my eyes, it just gives a little bit of brightening. I don't think that it is too dark for me at all. And in general, I think that it's really not providing anywhere near the coverage of dark circles that something like the eye pencils do. It's really something to just kind of throw on that's more like skincare, but that might help a little bit with dark circles. And then in addition, there's this lip mask, which is very lightly tinted pink. And so this is called the Lip Restore Overnight Mask. And so some of the moisturizing ingredients that are in this include shea butter, ceramides, palmitoyl tripeptide 38. And this does have a little bit of a flavor to it, but I have not found it to be problematic for me. And in general, if you like lip masks, then I think that this one is fine. In general, I tend not to like products that go on my lips that I have to stick my fingers in, because then I feel like I need to be always washing my hands before I use the product. And so that is a little bit on the frustrating side for me whenever anything comes in a little pot like this. But I think as pot lip glosses go, that this one is not too bad. And then the kit also has a mini Miracle Balm in it, and this is just a clear mini Miracle Balm, and so I haven't actually used this one yet. And then the other items that are in this kit include a $20 coupon, which is basically the cost of one container of an organic baby formula from a company that is called Bobby. And then also this mirror. And so the mirror seems to be in cardboard, so maybe it's supposed to be like more better for the earth. And so it's just a mirror that opens up and then it says, "Look at you glowing on no sleep." Now another product that Jones Road used to sell is a lip balm in a squeezy tube that was called Cool Gloss, and that was really highly flavored with peppermint, and it also had some menthol in it. And that was also made by that same company that was making those lip and cheek balms. And so they were not really able to continue to make that, and so therefore Jones Road decided to start over with a new company and to make a different squeezy tube lip balm. And so this one is called Lip Recharge, and these are $24 each. And they are not quite as strongly flavored with peppermint as before, but they do still have some peppermint in them. And they also still have some menthol in them, but they also have some other flavoring ingredients. And so if you look at the ingredient list, the flavoring ingredients that this has in it are unspecified flavor and also spearmint leaf oil, peppermint leaf oil, carvone, which is a spearmint derivative, and also limonene and vanillin. And so this definitely has a pretty strong flavor to it. And I don't mind the flavor, but I didn't mind the flavor of the old version either. I do find that this tends to be a little bit hard on my lips, so I can wear it occasionally, and I think it's okay. But if I wear it too often, then I do think that my lips start to get dried out, probably from that menthol that is in it. And so that is kind of counter to the whole idea of wearing a lip gloss, and so I haven't really worn it very much. But I don't mind the flavor, and I think that they are kind of pretty and that they look nice on my lips. This is available in 8 different shades, and they did send me these 3 shades. So the shades that I have here are Rosé, which is a kind of a darker pink, Pink Lilac, which is kind of more of a light purpley pink, and Me is actually supposed to be Bobbi Brown's shade, and so this is kind of a brownie pink type of a shade. And this does have some moisturizing ingredients in it, including shea butter and also palmitoyl tripeptide 1. So I think that it could be good for the lips if you're not irritated by that menthol. Another release that came out a couple of months ago are the eyeshadow sticks, and so I did pick up several of these different sticks. I think that they are mostly out of stock on the Jones Road website now, and that they've been out of stock for a while. I think that the darkest shades and the lightest shades may be in stock, but the ones that most people seem to be most attracted to, they've been out of stock for quite a while. And so they're $32, and they are not the kind of eyeshadows that go on and stay on forever. They kind of are a little bit more like a powdery type of a formula, and I think that they're nice, and I like the way that they look, and I especially like them as kind of a base to put on shimmery eyeshadow toppers over the top of them, like for instance the shimmer shades that are in that Dolce Gabbana palette. So I think that these are not all that different than some of the other eyeshadow sticks that are out there, like for instance the ones that are from NARS, for instance, but I think that these are okay products and I kind of like using them on occasion. And then finally, I am kind of a fan of the classic lipsticks from Jones Road, and those were out of stock on the Jones Road website for quite a long period of time, like several months, but most of the shades seem to be back in stock. And I did do a video recently where I took all 9 of the more neutral shades that they offered, and I demonstrated all of those on camera in natural light because I had a really hard time figuring out which one might be best for me based on the information that was on the Jones Road website. And so if you are interested in those lipsticks, then I would suggest seeking out that video. Now, Lancome is a company that I used to not be able to use really any products from. They all used to either have ingredients in them that were problematic for me, or I found that when I actually used the products that I didn't like them very much. And so therefore I was a bit surprised more recently for them to have come out with quite a few products that I've actually liked. And so the newest one that I think is actually does seem to be working for me so far, even though I've only used it a few times, is this foundation stick. And so this is called the Tenti Doll Shape Stick Blurring Multi-Use Foundation Stick, and it is $46. And it's available in 24 shades. And when I look at the ingredient list, I think the ingredient list doesn't look too bad. It does have silicones in it, but I don't think it's supposed to be that non-breathable, waterproof type of silicones that were in their old foundation stick that I did not really enjoy using. And I've only used this one a couple times so far, but I feel like it's going to be okay for me. And I don't know that I will like it as much as I have the Jones Road foundation stick, but I think it's kind of similar in terms of how it's performing. And so I will show you, it's got a kind of a weird cap on it, but when you take the cap off, it is kind of just an ordinary foundation stick that has just a little bit of a slant on it. And so when I review the other Jones Road products, maybe I will try to review this as a comparison so we can figure out which one we like better. And then they have a couple of other cheek products that go along with this. And so one of these is called the Tenti Doll Shape Stick Blush, which is $45, which is kind of expensive for a blush, but it has 3 different shades, and some of the ingredients in those blushes include jojoba oil and coconut oil derivatives. And so I think I will be able to try that out at Ulta. And so I will try to see what I think of it and see if it's actually worth picking up. And then they also have a highlighter stick, and this is called the Tenti Doll Shape Stick Glass Glow Highlighter Stick, and that is also $46, which is also kind of on the expensive side. And that one just has 1 shade, and so I am a little bit interested in taking a little bit of a look at that also. Generally speaking, you can get pretty good discounts on the Lancome products from time to time, and so if they're any good, I would be open to the idea of picking those up when there is a sale. Now, for a long time, Laura Mercier has had a line of powder blush, and those have had talc in them, but I did like those quite a lot, and the reason I think was because a lot of the colors are really muted. So they had one that was called Ginger and one that was called Chai, and I think that for my own pale complexion that those have been really easy for me to use. But they did have talc in them, and so they did reformulate them, and so the new versions are called the Blush Color Infusion Duo Talc-Free Powder Blush. And so there is supposed to be one side that is basically more like a matte, and then there's one side that is just a tiny little bit shimmery, but I think that both of these are pretty close to one another. And so I picked up one in a shade that is called Passion Fruit, which is pretty light and kind of a pinky warm color. And I really like this one. I think it's even better as a formula than the old ones, and they are available in 11 different shades. Only 6 of those shades are at Sephora, and the shades that I think that people with really pale skin might like the most are actually not at Sephora, so you may need to go to the Laura Mercier website or somewhere else for these. But I think that these are really quite a nice formula, and they remind me a lot of the formula for the Sisley blushes. Of course, the Sisley blushes have this sort of beautiful orchid stamped into them, and so they're much more fancy. But in terms of the actual quality of the formula and how it performs, I think that this is actually really, really nice. It goes on the skin blends in really easily, and especially for those of us who do have pale skin and who want a kind of a natural look, I think that among the powder blushes that are out there, that this one is really, really good. And the other blush that I think is pretty similar to this are the Ilia ones. And so the only thing that I can say about this one, apart from the fact that I do like it, is that it does have a mirror in it. And so I kind of prefer that to the Ilia ones where I have to find a separate mirror when I'm applying the product. And this does have some skincare ingredients in it, including ceramide, sunflower oil, coconut oil derivatives, vitamin C, and some fermented ingredients. And I think that my skin does like this a lot. Laura Mercier does have one more product that is brand new, and this is called the Secret Camouflage Custom Complexion Perfector. and it is $38. And so I think that this is a cream type of a formula, but it's a little bit interesting because what you get is a neutral shade with a little bit more of the product that you can use as sort of like a concealer. But then it also has separate versions. There's one that's a little bit warm than the neutral version, and there's one that's a little bit cooler. And so if you want to do different parts of your face with slightly different shades, then that could be something to consider. I do personally like to use a neutral version on my face in general, and then a cooler version underneath my eyes as a slight color corrector, so I could sort of see using that. I'm not sure what I would use that warm version for on my face, and so I don't know that I would really get a lot of use out of that, but I would like to take a look at it in the store if they have it there to see what it actually is like. And there are 8 different versions of that. This year apparently is the 100th anniversary of Marilyn Monroe's birth, and so there are going to be a lot of Marilyn Monroe themed products available, and one of those is from Lisa Eldridge. And so Lisa Eldridge said that the people from the Marilyn Monroe estate liked her videos and her discussions of Marilyn Monroe so much that they really wanted her to do the collection, and so therefore she has a whole collection of items that are Marilyn Monroe centered, and all of those are supposed to be focused on the summer of 1957, when Marilyn Monroe was spending a summer mostly on holiday with her then husband Arthur Miller. And so there's some pictures of that time where she looks really relaxed and happy. And so that was the vibe that Lisa Eldridge wanted to put together in this collection. And so the collection includes a number of new products or product colors, and then also there is a deluxe makeup collection that includes all of those products as well as some additional Lisa Eldridge products that go along with them, and that collection is $295, and it's supposed to be a $371 value, but I did decide to go ahead and purchase that because I had some discounts available from being a Lisa Eldridge Emerald member, and so last I saw that package was still in the Heathrow Airport, and so I don't know how long it's going to take to get here, but I will try to demonstrate all of these shades for you when this comes in, because I do think that they are kind of pretty, and that sometimes seeing those shades on more than one person rather than just on whatever influencers might actually end up getting it first can be helpful to people when they decide what they want to buy. So the new products that they developed, first of all, there is a highlighter. And so the highlighter is called the Elevated Glow Balm Concentrate, and so that seems to me that it's a little bit in the same neighborhood as the Jones Road Miracle Balm in that it is providing a glossy and kind of moisturizing look to the skin. And so there are 2 different shades of this. One is called Butterfly Light, which is champagne colored, and one is called High Key Light, which is more of a bronze color. And so my hope is that maybe I will be able to use both of those products because I do kind of like a bronzy highlighter to use in the middle of summer especially. And then the other brand new products that are part of this collection are lip products. And so 2 of them are in the formula that is called Rouge Experience, which comes in refillable packaging. And you can either buy them in the full case or you can buy them just in the refills. And so the first one is called Norma Jean. And this one is supposed to be a reddish orange color. And this apparently is an exact replica of a lipstick that was owned by Marilyn Monroe that Lisa Eldridge actually had purchased, and she had said that she was originally a little disappointed that it was not a really bright red shade, but that the more that she played with this red-orange color, the more that she really liked it, and so she decided to duplicate it for this collection. And I do really like reddish-orange lipstick on myself, and so I am kind of excited about buying this one. And then there's also another one that is in this Rouge Experience formula, and this is called Amagansett, which is where she and Arthur Miller went on holiday, and that one is supposed to be a bright pink-red color. And so I think that both of those do look really pretty, and my experience with Lisa Eldridge products is that even when I have actually seriously, purposely picked out a product that I thought would be the most difficult of hers to wear in terms of being a color for me. I feel like they have all been pretty wearable for me, especially if I don't use them in too bright of a way, and so I am hopeful that I will really like these colors also. And then the third lipstick product that she released is the Velveteen Liquid Lip Color for $27. And this is in a new shade that is called Strawberry Blonde. And so she is describing that one as a strawberry pink. And so that one does look very pretty also. And I have tried a couple of those liquid lip colors. And even though I am really usually skeptical about liquid lipsticks because they do tend to go on really dry and they tend to be really uncomfortable, I do feel like hers have been pretty wearable for me, and so therefore I think it's kind of interesting to pick out one more of these shades as well. And then as a gift with purchase, there is a luxury gift box, and so that has some pictures of Marilyn Monroe on it, and so that is free with the $100 spend, including one Marilyn Monroe purchase. And so in general, it was really a splurge for me to have purchased that whole kit, but I am kind of a Marilyn Monroe fan, and there is a book that Gloria Steinem wrote about Marilyn Monroe that was back, I think, in the late 1980s or early 1990s that I really did like quite a lot, and so I've been going back and reading that book again, and I do feel like this is kind of a kit that I feel like I really will enjoy using, I hope. And then another product that Lisa Eldridge has released over the past couple of months were the Velatura Balms, which are $36, and I actually did a whole video just on those Velatura Balms. And so there are 5 different shades, and I picked up one that is called Cinnamon Bun, which is a rosewood tan, and then there also are 4 other colors, including Vibrant Berry, Baby Blue Pink, Natural Cool Pink, and a Warm Bright Red. And those are designed for lips and cheeks, and they do have a good bit of vanillin in them, and I would say that they have about the same amount of vanillin in them as their previous lip balm release, and so I think that these are sort of wearable for me, but I haven't been really tempted to buy another one. I have really liked that Cinnamon Bun shade, though, and I feel like wearing it on my cheeks that the vanillin seems to dissipate fairly quickly, and I'm a little bit less likely to wear it on my lips just because I really prefer something that doesn't have that artificial vanillin in it. And then in addition, Lisa Eldridge has come out with some new shades in her Seamless Glide eye pencils. Those are $32. I did pick up 2 of these different eyeliners at the beginning when she first released them, and I found that they were slightly irritating for my eyes. And also I have found the Victoria Beckham ones, which I think are very, very similar and probably from the same factory. I have found those Victoria Beckham ones to be slightly irritating as well. And so I'm not going to be buying any more of these Lisa Eldridge eye pencils, but I do think that the shades look very pretty. So if you are not bothered by them, then I think that these could be kind of fun. And so the shades that are new are Enigmatic Olive, which is supposed to be a deeply burnished olive with golden pearls, Lilac Thyme, which is supposed to be bright, fresh, matte lilac, and Bettina, which is cool gray lavender with silver pearls. MAC has a new lip gloss type of a formula, and this is called the Lipglass Cushion High Pigment Lip Oil for $25. And so some of the moisturizing ingredients in this include glycerin, castor oil, jojoba oil, meadow foam seed oil, apricot kernel oil, and sweet almond oil. So some of those sound like they could have some potential. And there are 12 different shades of this. This does have vanillin in it, and so that is a little bit of a negative as far as I'm concerned. But I did kind of like the previous release that MAC did from the lip gloss line, which was like a year or so ago, and so I'm a little bit interested in this one also. And Makeup by Mario has brought back their Ethereal Eyes eyeshadow palette. So this one in the past was just limited edition. And I think that it may be the case that this one is going to be permanent, which I think is probably a good idea because it is kind of muted type shades that a lot of people can wear. And a lot of those are really quite pretty. And I have really liked the one that I have that I purchased a couple of years ago. And so this is $69. And so hopefully this will stay on the market for a long time into the future. Now, the big new makeup brand for the summer seems to be Marc Jacobs, and so this is a brand that I have never tried before. I think that it was really popular in the late 2010s, and then it went off the market before I started to become interested in makeup, and now it is back. And the thing to know about this particular company is that it is being made by Coty. And before I knew that it was made by Coty, when I looked at the ingredient lists, I did feel like the ingredients for most of these products seem like it was kind of basic, and the packaging and things look like it's also kind of designed for a pretty young market. And now that I know that it's from Coty, what I really feel like is that it is quite a lot similar to the Kylie line of cosmetics, which I actually think is quite a good line of cosmetics. I don't have any problem with the Kylie line of products at all. I am not necessarily a fan of the Kardashian and Jenner family, and that's part of why I haven't actually reviewed those products, even though I have a whole bunch of those. So I'm actually a little bit tempted to, rather than going out and buying all these Marc Jacobs products, to actually just review the Kylie products that I already have, because I think probably a lot of them are very similar, or at least just as good as the Marc Jacobs ones. However, I probably will buy at least a few of these Marc Jacobs ones just to see what they are like myself. And so I did look at the ingredient list for all of these, and I would say that in general that the ingredient lists do look pretty good. The lipsticks do have fragrance in them, and I have heard other people talk about the fact that they do seem to have a bit of a scent to them, and so therefore I won't be buying those. And in addition, a couple of shades of the eyeliners do have aluminum powder in them, and so I would not be interested in those because that would irritate my eyes probably. But in general, I do think that the formulas look pretty clean, and I don't feel like they are necessarily going to be ideal for those of us who do have mature skin, either in terms of how they perform on the skin or also in terms of sort of the vibe that the makeup itself is getting across. But I would be interested in trying a few of these products. And so the products that are the most popular and that are pretty much all sold out on both the Marc Jacobs site and on the Sephora site are the Born Star eyeshadows, and these are $29. They're cream to powder formula, and there are 14 different shades. And most of the shades are kind of sparkly, and a lot of them have a shift to them. So I think if you are looking for an eyeshadow look that is kind of attention-getting and kind of funky looking, that could be kind of fun. And they're $29, and so that is a fairly reasonable price. Now, one product that I am thinking about buying, just because I do tend to buy a lot of bronzers to compare them, is the new Legally Bronze Bronzer, and that is $42. And so that has sodium hyaluronate in it and aluminum starch octanyl succinate in it, and there are 8 different shades. And it looks to me like I might be able to wear the shade that is the lightest. It looks like it might lean a little bit more on the pink side or the cool side. And I have heard some good things about this bronzer from the couple of influencers whose reviews I have watched, and so probably I will pick that one up and use that in a bronzer comparison video pretty soon. Another product that I'm a little bit interested in is the Joystick Blush Stick, and this is $35. And this comes in a tube that's shaped like a daisy, which I actually find to be kind of attractive, but it's like really chunky, and so it's probably about 2 or 3 times as large as the product actually needs to be, and so I don't know that I'm all that crazy about that concept, but I think that it might be fun to try the product, and it does have some sodium hyaluronate in it, so it might be a little bit moisturizing for the skin. It looks like it might go on fairly easily, and there are 10 different shades, and that is $35. So this seems to be the summer of the blush stick, and there are a couple of other really high-profile blush stick releases, and so I think that it might be worthwhile to compare those to this Marc Jacobs one to see which ones we like better. And then there also is a new line of eyeliners, and this has 21 different shades in them, and they are $26, and they are called the Drawn This Way Gel Eyeliner. And most of these look like they are really bright, And there are some that are matte, and there are some that are metallic. And as I say, 3 of them do include aluminum powder, but the other ones look like the ingredient list probably would be okay for me. And so therefore, I think that maybe I will pick up one of those just to see what it is like, because it does seem like there has been a really big improvement in terms of the eyeliners that are available just over the past few months. And so the Creal ones are quite expensive, and so I think it's a little bit worth it to look at other alternatives that might be as good as the Creal eyeliners, but might not be quite so expensive. And then there also is a product that is called the Money Shot Illuminating Gel Highlighter for $29. And so there is just one shade, and it looks like it kind of has a lavender type of a look to it. And so I think that that's a little bit interesting. I would like to see someone try it before I actually purchase it myself. And I haven't seen anyone actually try that one out yet. That one is supposed to have glycerin, hyaluronic acid, and coconut oil in it, so it should be a little bit moisturizing as well as having like a shimmer to it. And then there also is a mascara, and the mascara is called Flash's Panoramic Mascara, and it's $29, and it does have a peptide in it, and the peptide is acetyl tripeptide 3. And my experience with trying one peptide that is supposed to be a lash growing, the one that's in the Kosas mascara, that one tends to be irritating for me, and so I'm not sure if this one would be irritating or not, but I might be interested in giving that a try also. And then that also has sodium hyaluronate in it, and in general, as I say, I do feel like the Kylie products have been good for me, and so I do feel like Coty should be able to do a pretty good line of products that are not irritating and that are not really expensive, and so I think it's interesting to see if they have done that well with this Marc Jacobs line. Now, a lot of people seem to be really liking these lip liners that are from Merit, and so they're called the Signature Lip Liners, and they are available already in a number of different colors. And if you like a lip liner that goes on and stays on your lips and makes your lips continue to behave well sort of all day, then this is not the right lip liner. These are very soft, and they're kind of smudgy looking, and they don't last very long. And actually, I feel like when I wear them with most of the lipsticks that I own, including the Merit lipsticks, that the lip liners are holding up less well than the lipsticks themselves, and so I'm not quite sure what the purpose of them is, except maybe to give a slightly different color to the edges of my lips, which isn't really the goal of my wearing lip liner. But in any case, if you like those lip liners, then they do have 6 new shades, and so they do have an awful lot of those lip liners. And what I will say is that those lip liners are quite expensive on a cost per gram basis, and so maybe that is part of why Merit is promoting them. m.ph is a brand that was introduced at Sephora last year, and that is owned by a woman named Mary Phillips, and she is a makeup artist who is primarily associated with Hailey Bieber, and so she is really known especially for her underpainting technique, where she uses contour type products and then puts foundation over the top of them. And so she has an underpainting face palette that used to be available in 3 different shades. That is $64. And I did try that out at the store last year, and I did feel like the colors were probably not right for me, and I also feel like in general I'm not all that interested in contouring my face, and I also felt like the under eye concealer was a bit on the dry side and didn't work all that well with my wrinkles. But for those people that are really interested in this palette, there are 3 new versions of it. And so there are 6 versions of it total. And so therefore, if you have a skin tone that didn't work very well with the previous versions, then it might be worthwhile to go back and take another look. And so they do have one that is much lighter than the previous light version that they had before. And then there's one that's really deep for people with much darker skin tones. And then there is an extra tan color in the middle. Now, as is usually the case when I do these new product videos, NARS has come out with a number of new products, some of which I have already tried. And so one of the newest ones is called the NARS Insatiable Longwear Liquid Blush. and it is $36, and it is available in 11 different shades. And so those of us who have tried the Afterglow liquid blush tended to feel like this was really, really pretty, but that it tended to disappear really, really quickly on the cheeks. And so the fact that this is supposed to be a long wear liquid blush, hopefully that is remedying that problem. And this does have squalane as the first ingredient, as well as a number of other moisturizers in it. And I do think that some of the colors look really pretty. And so I am looking forward to trying this one out to see how well it works for me. And then in addition, NARS has a couple of different products that are in their light reflecting line. And so I think I'm almost only seeing these on the Ulta site so far. Maybe they have appeared on the NARS website, but for a while they were not even on the NARS website. And so the first one is the NARS Light Reflecting Luminizing Stick, and that is $40. It's available in 5 different shades. And so I am thinking that that looks like it may be fairly similar to, for instance, the Westman Atelier lit up highlighting sticks, which I use all the time, or the Chanel Baume Essential highlighting sticks, which I also really like and which I think are very similar to those Westman Atelier ones. And so therefore I don't know that these luminizing sticks are going to be that much less expensive. That $40 is also pretty expensive, but I would be interested in giving these a try just to see how they work, because for the most part, I do use a product, either the Chanel one or the Westman Atelier one, almost every day. And I feel like that does just, especially in the winter, but even in the summer, I think that it gives a nice sort of youthful look to my skin in terms of giving my skin some more moisture and a little bit more highlighting. And so therefore, I am always interested in more products to see if those are any good. And then also there is a new release that is called the NARS Light Reflecting Luminizing Blush. This is $42, and again, this is only available so far on the Ulta website that I have seen. And there are 5 different shades, and they are all pretty bright. And so I would kind of like to try this out in the store before I go ahead and commit to it. And there are supposed to be some moisturizing ingredients in those blushes, so that does make me a little more interested in it. Now, last year, NARS came out with a line of blush sticks that were called the Multiples. So this is a new formula, and it's from Korea. And I actually really like those blush sticks quite a lot. I did find them to be really blendable, and they're kind of a matte look, but I think that they're really pretty, and they kind of blended into my face just so easily that made me really attracted to them. And so this year, they came out with a line of bronzers that are in that same formula. And so I'm always kind of skeptical about the NARS bronzer formula, because they do tend to be working more like contours, and I tend not to contour my face very much, and they tend to kind of go gray. And so in looking at the pictures of those, I felt like most of the shades were kind of gray, but I did feel like there was one shade that I was kind of interested in, and the shade is the Laguna shade. And so I decided to pick that one up because I was able to get it in this little duo on sale. And so it came with a shade of blush that I was really interested in also. And so you can take a look at what those look like swatched on my arm. And I actually feel like I have been able to wear this bronzer, and that it hasn't been too bad. I wouldn't say that it is my favorite bronzer shade, but I do feel like it has been wearable for me. And so this new bronzer type product is called the Multiple Sculpting Stick. And if you just buy one of those sticks, then it is $40, and there are 5 different shades. But I do feel like a lot of those shades are so gray, and that the lightest shade would be so gray that it would probably only be appropriate as a sculpting product for me anyway. And then for summer, NARS also has a collection of shades that they're calling the Petal Play Collection. And so one of those is the NARS Petal Play Talc-Free Blush, which is just their regular blush formula in special shades. And so there's one that's called Love Me Not, which is grayish purple pink, and one that's called Amused, which is a peach type color. And then there are 2 eye quads, and I'm actually kind of interested in those eye quads. So one of those is called Bloom, which is leaning pink, and one that is called Spring Fever, leaning peach. And I do feel like NARS eye quads tend to be kind of on the expensive side, but I have had some really good experiences with a number of their eyeshadow palettes or quads, and so that does make me a bit interested in those. And then there's also a lip product that is called the NARS Petal Play Afterglow Lip Shine for $32. And so the two shades in that are New Dawn, which is described as a rosy pink, and Leap of Faith, which is described as a pearlescent soft apricot. And then finally, I do have one of the finishing powders from them that I actually have liked quite a lot. And they keep bringing out new ones and discontinuing the old ones. And so this is called the Light Reflecting Prismatic Powder Pressed for $44. And so the new shades of this one are Constellation, which is a pastel ivory mixed with pink lavender. And then there's also Twinkle, which is a pastel pink mixed with champagne shimmer. Natasha Denona has some new products. So one of these is the Tan Eyeshadow Palette. This is $72, so this is one of her regular MIDI palettes. And I did think this was really attractive, and so I did order it. And now that I did order it, I've been sitting around wondering if it was a mistake, because I do think that now that I've seen some of those swatched, that they do look like they are fairly dark shades. So I'm wondering if maybe I will just be using this palette as kind of a one-and-done palette, because I think that you could go overboard with it pretty fast. But on the other hand, I feel like Natasha Denona's formulas tend to be so easily blendable then maybe I can get away with this one. And so in any case, I feel like the colors that are in this, they are really attractive to me, and they're all kind of neutrals, but I think that they're shades that, even though there aren't any really light shades in this palette, I do think that the ones that are in this should work well on my complexion, and so I am looking forward to giving that a try. And there is one shade in that palette that does have aluminum powder in it. But with the Natasha Denona palettes, you can take them out and replace them with other shades or just leave a hole in there. And so therefore that did not prevent me from purchasing this palette, even though I'm not going to be using that shade with the aluminum powder in it. Natasha Denona also has just released a loose setting powder, and so this is called the High Glam Setting Powder. It is $42, and it is just available, it seems, in one shade, which is translucent, and so I would be interested in giving this a try, maybe in the store. And in addition, with the High Glam Foundation, I did review this last year, and I found that it performed pretty well for me, except that it does have a long wear formula that makes it very difficult for me to get off my face, and so that made me a bit frustrated, and so I decided that I probably wouldn't continue using it. But I do think that if you're looking for a foundation that has a medium coverage and that will stay in place for a long time, that this would be one to consider. And so that is $52, and there are 14 new shades in this particular product, and so now there are 52 shades total. And then earlier this year, Natasha Denona came out with a line of lip gloss, which is called High Gloss Lip Gloss in Balm in 7 different shades for $28. And the original release had a problem with it in that a lot of the shades were reported as having like a burnt flavor to them, which apparently was unintentional. So they sort of did a recall of that. And so if you happen to have gotten one of those, then you are not really getting what they intended, I think, and so you might want to still look into whether or not you could take that one back. But it does look like they have restocked all those different shades, and so my hope is that it will not have that burnt smell to it or the burnt taste anymore. Now, they do have vanillin in them, and so that makes me somewhat uninterested in it to begin with, but I do think that maybe it's time to give it another go and see if this new release is better than the original one. Patrick Ta has some new products, and so I have tried out his concealer, and this is called the Major Skin Soft Blur Brightening Hydrating Concealer. It is $34. It's available in 25 shades, and in terms of skincare ingredients in that, I see sodium hyaluronate and vitamin C. And so in terms of Patrick Ta's foundation, that is one of my favorites. On the other hand, I feel like the concealer has not been as good for me. I feel like in terms of how it looks in terms of the context of the wrinkles in my eye area, I don't feel like it looks really bad, and so it's not so much that I would be not willing to wear it for that reason, but I don't feel like it is performing as well in terms of not exacerbating the look of my wrinkles as a number of the other concealers that I've used, including both the Chanel one and the Chantecaille ones that have come out recently and that I talked about earlier in this video. In addition, when I use the Patrick Ta concealer, I do feel like this is one that it didn't really irritate my skin, but I don't feel like my skin necessarily liked it all that much, and it was one of those ones where if I wear it too long, I feel like I can kind of start to taste it a bit, which makes me feel like it's being sucked into my skin and ending up in my bloodstream, and so I'm not all that crazy about that either. Now, the other new products from Patrick Ta are part of what he is calling the Transitions line. And so the idea of this is that you are using blush that is going up higher and like actually going into the eye area. And this is a technique that people have been using in terms of the makeup world for a long time. And so I wouldn't say that this particular technique is necessarily one that anybody has the rights to say is theirs. I think that there's a bunch of different people that do have an interest in it. The thing that seems to be controversial about this is that Patrick Ta trademarked the name Transition Blush to put it on his products. And so some people say that he shouldn't have done that because he actually did not invent that technique. So I don't really have an opinion about any of this. But there are two new products from Patrick Ta that are supposed to help you to create that look. I did try both of these out at my local Sephora. And so there are, first of all, there's one that's called the Liquid Transition Brightening Blush, and that is $34. And so this is available in 4 different shades, which are pink, peach, coral, and lilac. And in terms of the ingredient list, it is supposed to have sodium hyaluronate and vitamin C in it. And so I just tried it on my hand at the store, and I felt like, in terms of trying to blend it in, that it felt like it was kind of dry, and I also found that it did not really blend all that easily. And so just based on that, I'm a little bit skeptical about whether or not I should spring for it. And then there's a second product that Patrick Ta has, and this is called the Major Headlines Transition Blurring Under Eye Blush Duo, and it's $30, and this is described as being a duo compact featuring sheer, softly blurring powders with a hint of tint to create a seamless transition of color from the cheeks to the under eyes. And so the idea of this one is that it is a powder blush, but it is a very lightly tinted powder blush. And so therefore you're not going to be getting a whole lot of color in your under eye area. But in general, I think that I'm wondering if that's something that I would really like either, even if it was a kind of a light color. Now I do have this powder, and this is the Kosas Cloud Set Translucent Candy Rose Ultra Transparent, so it's in a pink color. And then I have a Jones Road powder that's also in a pink color. And I do like using this kind of thing in my under eye area, and I don't feel like this is looking nearly as bright as the pictures in the Patrick Ta ads, and so maybe I'm just missing something. Now, I do think that maybe the reason that this has gotten so much play is that the woman who has been getting a lot of attention for it, her line is called Painted by Esther, and I think that it's mostly focusing on people with darker skin. And so, therefore, it may be the case that if you have lighter skin like mine, that you may have already been using something like this pink powder. So in general, I'm not sure that this is a trend that I'm all that interested in, and I'm not sure that if I want to follow that trend that I really need to be purchasing these products. But I think it could be that if you have darker skin tone and you're interested in pursuing this trend, then some of these products might be appropriate for you. Rare Beauty came out with a line of foundation, which is called the True to Myself Natural Matte Longwear Foundation. It is $38. It has higher coverage, so more like medium to full coverage, and Unlike many medium to full coverage products, I do feel like this one has a bit of moisturizing in it, and so I did get a sample of that and I did try it on, and I think it looks okay on me. I think it looks perfectly fine, and there are 48 different shades, and I do feel like I was able to get a good shade match in that, and so I do want to take some of these higher coverage foundations that I haven't really reviewed on camera and to compare them in an upcoming video, and so hopefully I can do that soon. But this one does include some sodium hyaluronate, bisabolol, coconut oil derivatives. It also has some ginger root extract in it, and I don't feel like it has had a scent. And it is a silicone-based product, but in general, I think that compared to most foundations that are reasonably priced and most foundations that are higher coverage, that this one actually has been working well for me during the couple of times I've tried it. Refi is a brand that I had never tried at all before a couple of months ago, but they did come out with a new skin tint, and so I did decide to try this, and this is the Hydrating Gel Skin Tint. It is $40, and there are 18 shades, and I have actually liked this quite a bit. I think that it does have a lot of moisturizing ingredients in it, and so I do feel like, especially if it is the summer, that it's a good idea for me to put powder down on top of it, but in general, I think that it has looked really nice on my skin and that it has not emphasized my wrinkles and it has not been irritating at all, and it has been easy to get a good shade match for me, and so in general, I think this has been a very nice product. And so some of the Refi products have been on the market at Sephora for a while, but they do have a few new ones. And so one is called the Glow and Sculpt Face Serum Primer with Niacinamide, and that is $22. And I tend not to use primers a whole lot, but I would be interested in hearing about other people's experiences with that. And then they also have a lip liner, which is called Lip Blur Lip Liner, and it's $24. And I did pick up one of these, and I actually kind of like it, and so I do want to demonstrate that on camera. There are 6 different shades, and I do feel like, as lip liners go, that one was working pretty well for me. And then the brand new products that I think are just now being released, there is a water blush and there is a water bronzer. And in my last new products video, I talked a lot about the RMS Redimension Hydra Eyes Quartet for $49 each. But at the time, one of the shades had not come into stock yet. It was still not arrived from the factory. And so that has finally come into stock now. And so that is called Celestial Dream. And so I did pick this one up. And what I will say is that the shade in this that is supposed to be an olive green, which is this one, I do feel like that's a quite dark shade, darker than I was anticipating, and so therefore I think that that is one that surprised me a little bit. And it's not that I can't wear this palette, and it's not that I don't like all of these shades, but I think that if you are looking for something that's actually green, that this is not it, because this is so dark that it's almost like a grayish sort of really dark gray type of a color, and really doesn't have a lot of green in it. But in general, I do like these palettes an awful lot. I think that they go on the eyes really easily. They are the same formula as the RMS bronzers and the RMS blushes, and so in general, they do perform really, really well. Now, Say came out with a new line of bronzers that are powder, and they are basically in the same formula as their existing blushes and their existing setting powder, and so I do really like this particular formula. It has squalane and sodium hyaluronate and glycerin in it, and so there are 6 different shades. And this is called the Say Super Suede Powder Bronzer, and it is $32. And so I did pick up the lightest shade of this, and I think it's worked pretty well for me. I do feel like this is fairly highly pigmented, and so it does lean sort of on the orangey side or peachy side, but it also seems to have a good bit of a lean towards pink in it, and so I kind of feel like if you have skin that is a lot cooler than mine, that this might not be ideal for you. if you're looking for something that's like a pinky taupe type color, I don't think that this is it. But I think that for me it has actually been fine, and it doesn't seem to be too gray, and it is something that I can just throw on. And I do like this particular formula so much that I think that it's worth using for me on occasion because of that. Now, Sarah Creal came out with the line of blush a couple of months ago, and this is called the Coming In Hot Blurring Pressed Mousse Blush, and it is $45. And so I picked up one that is supposed to be kind of a peach color called Sunshine, and I purchased it through Sephora during the Sephora sale. And when it arrived, it was kind of all falling apart in the container, so somehow it got damaged on the way to me. And this is a story that I've heard of from many people, so a lot of people that purchased this through Sephora did get this to be damaged. And so I was a little disappointed about that. And in terms of using it, I just managed to press it back down into the container. And in general, I think it has been okay for me. I wouldn't say that at least this damaged version has been my favorite blush. I do really like this container. But in any case, I would be a little bit interested in trying another shade of this. But I feel like at this point, I'm not all that motivated to buy one of those other shades. And there are 6 different shades of these. And there's a couple of shades that are supposed to be more on the nude side. And then there are some other shades that do look like they are pretty bright. Now, as I mentioned, I do really like these Sarah Creal eyeliners, and I have collected sort of a ridiculous number of them so far. And there are several new ones that have come out. And so the new ones that have come out over the past several months include a few of them that do have aluminum powder in them. And those are Twilight Smoke, Copper, Jungle, and Matte Bronze. And I actually have a couple of these that do have aluminum powder in them, supposedly. I have the Twilight Smoke one, and I have the Jungle one. And surprisingly, I have done fine with both of those, and they haven't irritated my eyes at all. In terms of the new products that have been introduced this year, those have included the Jungle shade, which I did pick up. That's kind of a green shade. Maritime, which is a blue shade, which I have actually really, really liked. And Rose Bronze, which is a really muted type of a color, which isn't really working that well as an eyeliner, but it's kind of a pretty eyeshadow type of a color. And then there's a brand new one, which is called Everyday Matte Bronze, and that is one that also has aluminum powder in it, and so that is one that I am going to be skipping. And Sarah Creal also came out with a new shade of their highlighter, and so the highlighters are called Today's Highlight 12-Hour Peptide Balm Luminizers, and they are $55, and so I just have this one shade, and the shade that I have is called This Just In, which is kind of a champagne color. The new shade that they just released is called Pink Champagne Glow, and so I guess it's a bit more pink, and that is called Style Section. And I feel like this highlighter has been okay, but somehow I haven't been all that drawn to use it, and so therefore I'm not all that inclined to purchase another one of these, even though these do have peptides in them, and so maybe they are really good for my skin. And then also Sarah Creal has a line of tinted lip balms, and this is a different formula than their clear lip balms, and it's actually from a different factory. But I think that the one that I have, which is in a shade that is called Vibrance, I think it's been kind of nice. And so they have a new one of these, and this is in a shade that is called Insight, which is described as a sheer nude pink, and this is $42. Now, Sisley is a brand that is really, really expensive, and so if we exclude Louis Vuitton, this may be the most expensive makeup brand on the market. And so I did pick up this particular new bronzer, and so this is called Phyto Touche Illusion d'Eté, and it is $130, and I have really, really liked it. It is fairly similar to the RMS bronzers, and it also is pretty similar to that Chantecaille bronzer, which is just being released in their permanent line, and so I'm not sure that you really need to spend $130 for this bronzer, but I did do a full video where I talked in depth about this bronzer, and when I get the new Chantecaille bronzers in, then I will do a comparison between those and this one, so you can see which one might be best for you and if you would be just as well off or even better off with one of the others. And then they also have a new highlighter that I am interested in, and this is called the L'Orchidée highlighter. It is $130, and so it looks kind of pretty. It looks like it might lean more gold than I like, and so I'm a little bit interested in trying this out at the Blue Mercury store when and if it comes in. It does have some squalane in it, and it is just available in that one shade, and so I am at least a little curious about it. And then the last time that I was at Blue Mercury, I did try their new powder, and this is called the Phyto Tint Poudre Libre, which is a loose powder, and that is $130. And so there are 4 shades of this powder, and one of those shades does have a good bit of shimmer in it. And I think that the ingredient list for that powder looks pretty good. It has aluminum starch octanyl succinate in it, which is an ingredient that really allows products to blend really easily, I think, and then also squalane, glycerin, sunflower oil, and some botanical extracts. And I did try that powder on in the store, and I actually really, really liked it. And then Sisley's mascaras are also very, very expensive, $90. I think that is kind of maybe a little too much for a mascara, especially since I only will use my mascaras for 3 months, because I'm afraid that if I use them for longer than that they may give me an eye infection. So the new mascara from them is called the Sisley Phyto Noir Mascara, though, and I think that the ingredient list for that looks like it's probably perfectly fine. It does have a peptide in it, which is called biotinol tripeptide 1, and I'm not sure if that would be irritating, but in general, I think that that mascara does look like it has better ingredient list than their previous mascaras, and that there is a chance that I may be able to wear it fine and that I would really like it. And it does come in both black and brown shades, so that is attractive. It's just that $90 for a mascara, that is a really high price. Soshi has a new contour stick, and this is called the Precision Sculpting Stick. It is $26, and so it is made in Japan, and it reminds me a bit of the Victoria Beckham sculpting stick in that you can really easily draw a really thin line underneath your cheekbones, or if you want to try sculpting your nose, you could do that. And I think that this is a pretty good color, so it is kind of a taupe. The lightest shade here is kind of a taupe color, and it does lean just a little bit pink. And so I feel like I can use it pretty easily, and it does blend pretty easily. And it does have squalane and coconut oil derivatives and sunflower oil in it, and so I think that that probably is why it is blending easily for me. And so I actually am kind of a fan of this product. I still don't think I'm really intending to contour my face, and I don't think that as I get older that my face really would benefit from being contoured, but I do think that as contouring type products go, that this one is actually quite nice, and so I do want to actually demonstrate this on camera soon when I do a general video on all of the new bronzers that I've been trying out. And then another company that has a brand new bronzer is Summer Fridays. And so this is called the Bronzer Butter Balm Sculpting Cream Bronzer, and it is $32. And so I do think it's fairly similar in terms of the formula to the blush balms that were released last year, and that I did actually really like, and that I do feel like gives some moisture and a little bit of hydration and a little bit of extra softness and prettiness to my face. And I think that this does that as well. And so some of the ingredients in this include shea butter, mango butter. There's a peptide in there, which is acetyl hexapeptide 8, and then also sodium hyaluronate in meadow foam seed oil. And there are 6 different shades, and I did try this out at Sephora at the same time that I tried out that new Fenty bronzer at Sephora, and I think that this one worked better for me. I don't think it was as orange as the Fenty bronzer, and I did try it on my face, and I think that it did give a nice, healthy type of a glow to my face that I think was very pretty. And so I am planning to order this and then to include this in my bronzer roundup video. And then Summer Fridays has a few other products that interest me. So the first one, I'm not sure how long this one has been available on their own website, but it did just come to Sephora. And these are their bronzing drops and their highlighting drops, and they are $32. And so this is just a liquid product. And I think that the bronzing drops and the highlighting drops appear to be the same formula. It's just that the bronzing drops are darker. And so if you have darker skin, that is more like a highlighter for you. Or if you have lighter skin, then you can use the bronzing drops as more of like a bronzing type of a product. And those are ones that I did try out a little bit at Sephora, and I did really like them, I think. And so I do want to actually buy a bottle of them and give them more of a try. And then Summer Fridays also has two new lip products. And so one of them is a soft line lip pencil for $20, and that is available in 8 different shades. And I do believe that I've tried that on in a video in the past, but I actually really like it. The ingredients that are in that include jojoba oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, sodium hyaluronate. So as lip pencils go, it does have a lot of moisturizing ingredients in it, but considering that, I think that it goes on really easily and that it has stayed in place for me really well and has worked well with a number of different lipsticks that I've tried it with. And then they also have what they're calling a flushed lip stain for $22, and I am not sure how I feel about lip stains. And there are 6 different shades in that, and maybe I will think about buying one of them and giving it a try. Now, earlier this year, Tarte came out with the line of blush that was called the Macaron blush, and so it has a kind of a cream gel blush on one side and then a kind of a shimmery powder blush on the other side, and I did feel like that tended to go really bright on me, but nonetheless, I think it's kind of pretty, and compared to most of the Tarte products, I did kind of like it. And so now they have a very similar product that is in a bronzer, which is called the Macaron Sculpt and Bronze Duo. That is $38, and it's available in 5 different shades. So again, on one side of the compact, there is kind of a gel type of a bronzer, and then on the other side, there's like a highlighting type of a bronzer. And I did try that out at Ulta, and I feel like for me that the shade that was the lightest seemed like it was a little bit leaning orange, and so that made me a little bit uninterested in buying it. But I do think it's kind of a pretty product, and so for people that have skin that is a little bit warmer than mine, then you might be interested in giving that a try. Now, Tom Ford has come out with a whole bunch of new products this year, and most of them do have fragrance or other ingredients in them that make them no-goes for me, unfortunately. But they do have a product that is called the Soleil Sun-Kissed Blush for $40, and that ingredient list does look like it would probably be okay for me. And there are 5 different shades, and so I'm a little bit interested in giving that a try. Tower 28 has a new product that is called the Shine On Plumping Lip Jelly, and this is $18, and so it has 5 different shades, and it has sunflower oil, passion fruit oil, and then a peptide in it, and so the peptide that it has in it is palmitoyl tripeptide 38. And it also has some sodium hyaluronate in it. It does have some ethyl vanillin in it, and I did get a chance to smell it at Sephora, and I did feel like the vanillin in it was pretty strong. And I am interested in giving it a try, regardless of the fact that it does have that vanillin in it. Victoria Beckham came out with some liquid bronzers, and so this is called the Color Wash Bronze Water Tint, and it is $46. So basically this is the same product that they came out with in terms of their blush tints, except that it's a bronzer. And so I did pick this up, and this one sold out really, really fast, and so I'm not sure how soon that they will be getting this in, but it does seem to have been something that was pretty popular. And there are 2 different shades. One is called Tan Line, which is the lighter shade, and then there's one that's called Heat Wave, which is supposed to be darker. And in terms of the formula for this, I actually kind of like the blush. And some people did say that they thought that the blush would like stain their hand when they would put it on and that it was more patchy. And I did get the lightest shade of that one, and I feel like maybe that is why it worked a bit better for me than some of the other shades. In terms of this bronzer, I think that the bronzer is considerably easier to use than the blush, though, because I think it's less likely to stain, and I think it does blend in a little bit more easily than a blush, which tends to be a little bit more fussy because it's brighter. Now, I do really like the way that this looks on me, and I think it does blend into my skin in a way that makes it look really natural, and that makes me look like I actually just have a regular tan, because it is that gel formula, and so it does kind of blend in without it looking like there's any powderiness to it. And I also think that there's not all that much product in this container, and that you could use it up really fast, and it is pretty pricey if you're going to use it up that fast. And so I'm not necessarily feeling like everybody should run out and buy it as soon as it comes back into stock, but I do think it's a nice product, and that I think it's an interesting idea. Now, I am a fan of the Victoria Beckham lipsticks, and so I have a couple of different shades of these, and they seem to have moved now towards just really having neutral shades. And so, for instance, the pop color, which is red, that seems not to be on the website anymore, so I'm a little bit sad about that because I do like that pop shade. But they did come out with 2 nude shades that are new. And so one of those is shade 2, which is described as Victoria's Go-To Pinky Nude. And then the other one is called Muse, and that one is described as a deep mocha brown. And then Violette FR has a couple of new products, and so the first one is some eyeshadows, and these are called the Plume eyeshadows, and they are $32. And there are 8 shades, and 4 of them are mattes, and 4 of them are slightly shimmery, not very shimmery. And so I did pick up 2 of these. One is called Bronze d'Or, which is a brown shade, which is very slightly shimmery, which I like a lot. And then there is one that is a brown matte, and that one is called Bois Brûlé, and so that one is also usable by me, and it does go on pretty easily, but in general I do think that if I could do it again, I would have probably just purchased this one shade that is slightly shimmery. And I do think it goes on almost sheer, but it does give a nice wash of color to my eyelids, and so I do like that quite a lot. There is one shade in this line that is kind of like a lilac shade that I'm not sure would be a great shade for me, but that some people do like, and that does seem to look pretty on some people. So I'm hoping that this line will have some more colors in the future, because I do kind of like the formula, and I think if it were a little bit more interesting in terms of the colors, and if they were colors that I could wear, I would be interested in purchasing another one of these. And then they also have in this line a new blush, and so this is called the Plume Blush, and it is $34. And so I am guessing that this may be somewhat similar to the eyeshadow shades in terms of the shades being fairly translucent and going on pretty smoothly, so I would be interested in that. Now, these do have ethyl vanillin in them, and so that makes me a little bit less interested, but I'm a little bit more willing to tolerate that if it is in a blush rather than in a lip product. And so there are 5 different shades of this, and some of the other skincare ingredients that are in them include peach kernel oil, sunflower oil, vitamin C, and coconut oil. And then they also have some aluminum starch octenyl succinate in it, which is an ingredient that I think tends to be pretty blendable. So I am interested in that, and there is one shade in that that's kind of a bronzer blush type of a shade that's kind of beige with maybe a little bit of a pinkishness to it, and so that would be the shade that I would pick, I think. And then Westman Atelier also has some new bronzer duos, and so these are called the Suntone Bronzing Cream, and they are available in 4 different duos. And so, of course, I have the lightest one, and This is $75, so it is pretty pricey, but I do really like this, and I think that both of these shades in this duo are usable for me. They do come across as much more mellow when I put them on my cheeks than they do in this container, and I do think that they go on and blend into my skin really easily and that they look really pretty. And so I do feel like this is a nice little thing to have in my summer arsenal if I want to add just a little bit more of a bronzy look to the cheeks. But I will say that this comes across a little bit golden, and so probably if you have skin that is lighter and cooler than mine, then this may not be the right product for you. And then finally we have YSL, and so first of all, I do still really like the YSL Eye Quads, which are called the Mini Couture Clutch Eye Quads for $69, and they do have a new shade that is available on the Sephora website and also on the YSL website, and this is called Exotic Mirage, and so this is brown and sort of champagne type colors, and it looks in the pictures that this one may be pretty shimmery and that the glitter particles may even be kind of on the large side, but I still am interested in that, and I would be interested in at least taking a look at it, but I might go ahead and order it because I do think that all of the eye quads that I've purchased from them so far have been really, really good. Now, on the other hand, they also came out a couple of months ago with an eyeshadow palette, which had 9 different shades in it, and I don't know if this is gone entirely, but I did pick this up, and this is called the All Hours eyeshadow palette, and it was a little bit on the pricey side, and my experience with this was that I was a little bit disappointed with it, and that the shades that were in here are not quite as blendable, I think, as the ones that are in the eye quad, so I kind of thought that this would be just a lot of the same shadows, but I think that they may be different, and so I'm not sure if this one is going to be available anymore, but I think that maybe that is just as well, because I have not been liking this one as much as I had anticipated. Now, in their permanent line, YSL does have 2 new lip products, and so I did get a chance to at least try them out at Sephora on my hand. And so the first one is the Kiss Shaper Lip Liner, and that is $29. And that does list flavor on the ingredient list, and so that did make me a bit nervous, but when I tried it out on my hand, I didn't really sense anything in terms of it having a smell of any particular kind, so I think maybe it is on the mild side and not objectionable. And there are 10 different shades, and that has jojoba oil and coffee seed oil in it, and so I am still a little bit interested in picking one of those up, and they are $29, so they're not really, really expensive as lip liners go. And then the second product is a bit more expensive, and that is called the Love Nude Lip Blusher Soft Blurring Lip Color, and it is $43. And that one also does list flavor on the ingredient list, which did make me a bit nervous, and there are 6 different shades. And so again, I had a chance to try that out on my hand at Sephora, and again, I didn't feel like it had very much of a scent to it, so I would have been okay with it, at least in terms of picking it up for that reason. But I did feel like when I put it on my hand that it did not go on really smoothly, and I felt like it was kind of on the dry and patchy side, and so that made me a little bit hesitant to go ahead and spring for it. Now, it is supposed to have squalene and coffee seed oil and sodium hyaluronate in it, and so I would have thought that it would be a good product in terms of the formula, but I'm a little bit doubtful now, and I'm not sure I've heard anyone say any really good things about that one, so I might go ahead and skip it. And so thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video, and if there are any products that you have tried out recently that are new that you would like to share with us, then please do let us know about those so that we can all learn from one another. And also, if there are any of the products that I mentioned in this video that you would especially like to see me try, then please let me know about that as well. And please do sign up for my newsletter, because I do think that I would do well to be focusing a good bit of attention on that in the future, and so hopefully I can get that out to people that might be interested in it. And Coco and I do love you very much, and so thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. Ba-da-ba-da-da.
dum dum.